Hi there, welcome to another video. Following the video that we did recently on how ammunition boxes were carried with a Vickers machine gun, we got a few questions about different types of boxes, and I thought I'd do a video of most of the different types of boxes that we have in the Vickers MG collection and Research Association's collection. This spans mostly the British service, but then there's some international service in there as well. So I'm going to try and go through them chronologically. Clearly there's some overlaps, and just try and explain the different boxes, what some of the different bits and pieces mean, their general periods of service, and how they developed. So without further ado, here we go. As you can see, there's quite a range of boxes that we've got that the Vickers machine gun used. Most of them have a particular purpose. Some are just iterations as time went on, innovations, as new technology developed. So the main sort of leap from wooden boxes to metal boxes, and then from reusable to disposable boxes as well. So there's pluses and minuses with each of those. To start with, we've got those wooden boxes. The condition of this one's pretty poor, needs the leather work reworked on it. But these wooden boxes here all come from the service of the Maxim. So 303 box holds 250 rounds in the strip type belt. It's got these brass hinges on the top, and inside, as you can see, there are three painted black shapes of a round of ammunition, just to indicate which way round the ammunition should go in. And obviously that's to go on the right hand side of the gun, so the bullets face forward, so that the box lid then opens to the right of that. So this has a handle on the top, sort of normal grab handle. It then has these straps on the side, both sides, so you can actually hold two boxes either side of each other, or you can slip this strap over a rifle or a shovel handle, so you can carry a number of those together. There's even a bar carrying Maxim, which attached at the top of the Maxim gun, a sort of bamboo wooden pole that you could slip these over as well. They also have these notches in, and these notches are so that when it's on the field carriage, the Mark III field carriage, they actually go, the boxes slide onto runners within that, so they don't bounce out, because there's nothing actually going to hold them on other than those slides. So you don't slide them and put them next to the gun when you needed to fire it, but they actually secure the ammunition box in place. That's a feature that remains in place even after those carriages have gone out of service for the regular army, because the territorial force still had them for a number of years. But you've got this one with generally the strap arrangement is what's key. This is the number 3. The number 3, I can't remember which mark it is, but it's likely to be a Mark 1 or a Mark 1 star. As it's only got wood inside, it's probably the Mark 1. It then gets simplified, so these notches actually get reinforced with metal here. This is a number 3 Mark 3, a 1915 dated box. The strap at this point is just fixed with two brass screws on the end. And you can see there, you can easily hold two of these alongside each other, two in each arm. So you can hold, a single man could move 1,000 rounds of ammunition should they need to. The lid again is just a simple brass catch that opens in one way. It goes all the way back on this one rather than resting on the hinge, because the hinge, rather than resting on the back, because the hinge is now on the back face of the box rather than on top. But it's also lined with tin plate to help protect the ammunition that little bit more from damage. So this is a later iteration, let's say. It's lined with tin plate. There may have been a later adaptation of this box. We do have earlier boxes in the collection dating back to 1900, which have then had later bits of tin plate added as a modification later on. So really simple box, that one. Simpler still, and this one's full, so simpler still is when you've got just the handle on the top, the arrow there indicating the direction of the rounds. Box is opened again. This box doesn't have the tin plate lining, so it's a slightly earlier variant, but you can see there that actually the ammunition belt is in the wrong way round. Massive faux pas on my part. You've also got these bits in the lid. So these are just reinforcing bars for the lid to stop it cracking. This leather pad is actually to help hold the ammunition belt in place and to stop it moving around. No other purpose than that, but you do see it in quite a few of the boxes. This one isn't marked up at all, so I can't tell you which this box was originally marked as, but given its lack of modifications, lack of the runners down here, it's going to be the number 3 Mark II, maybe even an earlier number 3 Mark I. Yeah, so that's, so they weigh 10 kilos or 22 pounds when they're full. A later development, and this one's quite unusual, and it has no straps or no handle whatsoever, and it doesn't seem to have been fitted at any point for them. And we've got 2 in the collection just like this, so there's not it's not a coincidence, or it's not a poorly finished box. You know, and it has seen service because some of the original paintwork's on the base there. But this one actually has a 2-part lid. So you've got the front part that opens like that, and then if you want to access the whole bout, you open the whole thing and it goes out all the way. This one's got a tin plate lining. It's got the 3 painted rounds in the base of it as well. But like I say, no mechanism for carrying that by hand at all, other than, you know, under your arm or with very strong hands. So quite difficult to do once you have all that ammunition in. A slight alternative to that, again, there's still a number 3 box. It's just used sort of like Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, or with their star variations as well. This one has a small leather tab in here with cutouts here and here for that. This one's been damaged slightly. There's actually a cutout on the side as well that seems to have had a strap attachment or something that comes out and fits onto here, and that's the only place for that. But it has this handle on top. That's a replacement handle. It's far too slack, really. But it has this same 2-part lid opening with the same 3 rounds painted inside. Let's say tin plate lining on that one as well. So that's sort of the last of the number 3s. What's worth noting though is that this box here is a 1930s commercial example. It takes many of the characteristics of the number 3 box, but we know from Vickers catalogues of the period that it is a commercial variant. It doesn't have the tin plate lining, it's just a wooden box. This example is really good condition, possibly repainted, but I doubt it actually, considering the skill with it. You'll notice that it's got these lines here, that's so it can slot into the ammunition box bracket that goes on the, I believe it's the Class L tripod, the very late commercial all singing or dancing tripod that Vickers sold. So, say a commercial box, but the characteristics of some of those early Mark III boxes are existing on there. And then the last wooden ammunition belt box talk about is this one. It's for the Colt M1915 Vickers. We know that it's not a Browning box, so really quick indicators are the fact that Browning boxes for the Browning M1917 generally have this piece, a corner missing there, so that it can fit into the belt box brackets. And also it's a right-hand feed machine gun because, I don't know if you can see this on camera really easily, but there are the 3 rounds painted on the inside of this belt box, facing forward in this configuration. So we know it's a right-hand feed machine gun, which is not the Browning. So some indicators there, obviously, yeah, the M1915 is an American-made, a Colt-made Vickers that was used extensively by the US Army in 1917, training to go into the trench, go into the Great War, and then from a number of other forces around the world, and then by the British Local Defence Volunteers and Home Guard in the Second World War. So that belt box probably lasted as long as any others, because in sort of 1916, you started to see metal belt boxes. Now, it's worth saying, I've talked about the number 3 here. The number 1 was a Vickers belt box for cone mountings. It had 2 250 round belts. It was made out of teak. The number 2 was a Maxim belt box only. It wasn't used with the Vickers. Same for the number 4 and the number 5. They weren't generally used with the Vickers machine gun. If they were in specialist cone mountings, which are normally field fortifications or the Royal Garrison Artillery or coastal defence fortifications. So we jump from the number 3 to the number 6 bout box, which is the first metal bout box. Loads of stuff in the Small Arms Committee minutes on these. If you want to access those, we're sharing those through Patreon gradually over the next few months. But loads of stuff on the development for these, because it was about getting it right. Now this one is in quite poor condition. It is 1916 dated. You can see that it the strap arrangement here is that the tab comes down and then the tab from the bottom goes up into that tab. We won't see that on any of the other boxes, but it does exist on some of the number 8s as well. The lid then opens like so. So we've got this half lid open, means that this part of the bout is protected from gas, but then the other half of the lid actually folds forward, like so. What that means is that we can access this in a dugout position, in something with a low roof. So we can access the whole bout if we really need to in the dugout. So once we're out of the issue of gas, lift that lid forward and we're accessing it all. Clearly quite badly damaged in this case, and we'll need to give it some attention, but it's this sort of typical 2-handle design, leather 2 handles here, that we start to see throughout the rest of the ammunition bout box series. That, although it existed for some period, was developed into the number 7 bout box. So we're starting to see what we think of as a traditional Vickers bout box at this point. And the number 7 bout box has these 2 straps. This is in original condition. It's got the painted white now, round on there, so we know which way round it's going. Then has this strap over here to tension the lid. And if we can open it safely, you'll just see that inside, there we go, you've got a cushioned lid, possibly asbestos, unclear on that one. But we've got this woolen lid, a fibre lid, to stop gas getting into the bouts. You can read more about that on the website. And then we've got this really good sort of solid, smooth inside. Obviously with the rivets and everything, it had to be flush riveted on the inside, but you can. This is the first mass-produced bout box, the number 7. The main changes between this and some of the later ones are the lids. So you can see here we've got this just a rib round it, and then what we're relying on is the felt inside to stop any ingress of gas. The next iteration of the number 8 bout box, this is a partially restored one, is the fact that we've got this much deeper flap over it. And that deeper flap just stops that getting in so much. So again, we've restored the leather work on this, hence its freshness. And folds back again. This one's got the felt missing from the inside, so you can just see how that would be connected, how that's sort of these fold over soft bits of metal that hold that felt over. And this lid sort of just folds back on itself and stays nice and secure. By this point, the flap, the tab is coming down from the top, so you've got leather work on this side here. But this is a nice 1918 example that we've restored. There's some big sort of stamping in there, embossing or casting, as opposed to sort of little stamps. And this, the number 8 bout box, is what became the standard in the 1920s, if I remember my Army Council instructions correctly. They were issued the instruction that number 8 would become the standard, and the number 7 and number 9 would be declared obsolescent and gradually replaced. But we still see the number 7 and the number 9, which is this example, in the vocabulary of Army Ordnance stores as late as 1942. So the number 9, exactly the same design overall, same configuration with the leather handles, the leather strap on top, the leather tab, but we've got this flap now. We've got an additional reinforcing bar, just to give that extra strength around the top. There's no other changes. It's a heavier box, uses a lot more sort of production methods, really crisp sort of felt insert in there. But you can see how it's a stronger box. This one actually has patent markings on it for the patent registration as well. So maybe at some point we'll look that up and see what we can find out, what was particularly different about this example that meant it warranted patenting. But here we go. So it's January 1921, JB & Co, the number 9 bout box. Rarer than the number 8, not quite as rare as the number 7 it seems. So they're all the infantry belt boxes, and nothing really changed. We standardise on the number 8, and then we go to the number 10. The number 10 was for armoured fighting vehicles, hence the reason it's in white. So you can see it inside an armoured fighting vehicle. It's got the tab on the front. We then just have the small opening there so that you can access the belt in an armoured fighting vehicle, and you'd need to take it out probably to be able to access the whole thing. This is a Australian made example. We know they were in service from the 1930s in the British tank guns, so sort of Mark 4A, 4B, 6 and 7s, and then the Mark 21 for the Australians. But this is an RPL 1942 made example. These are the ones that you see most commonly because they be the ones that were released. The number 8 belt box you do see very commonly as well in the collector's market. This is rather than contemporary. Number 8 belt boxes, you see some really good mint conditions ones of these because the Australians were making them right up until 1945. I think it's the latest dates I've seen of those. For use with their guns, because they didn't go over to stripless ammunition belts until much later. All of these take the brass stripped ammunition belt. In the 1930s, though, the British were experimenting, well, they'd been experimenting since the end of the First World War, but were starting to put into production stripless ammunition belts with disposable ammunition liners. And that's these. So this is a tin liner that would be sealed in the factory, and it's what would be used by the British and Commonwealth forces throughout the Second World War. Ammunition would go from the factories in their belts in these. Two of those would be carried in a wooden transit box. This is what would go onto the 1500 weight truck, or even the universal carrier potentially. But so one of these would hold 500 rounds in stripless ammunition belts, marked up on the side, painted in blue to distinguish that it's belted ammunition, and it would be carrying 2 of these. Just to talk through the variants of these very briefly. So we've this was in service for a number of years. This is the H29 ammunition small arms liner. The H29 has a number of variants. And we've seen them like this. So this example is just a different manufacturing type. There's a number of different manufacturing types. This one's lid actually comes off in its entirety, like so. It's still the same designation box, and the H29. The way that they were changed in the late 1940s, so 44, 45, late Second World War, is you started to see the H50, a standardised ammunition system, being developed that would stay in service until the 1960s. The H50 box, this is a 1945 example, and it's got the earlier wire tabs on this. But this replaced the wooden box for reasons of storage, because originally it was designed to be the jungle pack, so it wouldn't be affected by the moisture of the jungle. In each one of those metal boxes would be 2 of these plywood ammunition boxes. Now ignore the date on this. I fully believe these have been changed by a number of reenactors in the late 1990s and early 2000s so that they appeared wartime. The records for these seem to be that they weren't actually used until later 1944, with the first contracts for the boxes only being placed in mid-1944. So 2 of these inside that metal H50, this is a H51, and then in each of these would be the liner. Inside this example though, we've actually got the later liner, the H58, I believe it's the H58, I'm going to check. Yeah, the H58 Mark 1, a 1958 dated liner, 1958 dated ammunition from Radway Green in here. And this liner, one handle was pulled open that way, the other handle was pulled backwards, and that's how you access your ammunition, or sardine tin style of ammunition loading. So it would be sealed in the factory until it gets to this point. So this is a later example of that H29 box. H29 replaced by the H58. There's also a H52 as well, which is a single strip liner, which was used for cartons and for bandoliers. Not for the Vickers ammunition belt. That was a double liner. Or as far as we're aware, there's a possibility it was. The other variations on liners, which I did show you in the how to carry ammunition, are these shorter, shallower liners. These ones are Australian made in 1950 dated. They still carry 250 rounds. The main difference is they don't have room for a wooden block that fits in the bottom of these taller liners, basically just to protect it from impact. They don't have that, so they would probably need to be carried in their wooden ammunition, their overcrate, a little bit longer. But you get two of these in the overcrate as well. That overcrate obviously is commensurate with the size of these. It doesn't fit in the H29 blue box. It's a lot flatter and slimmer. So that's a sort of these, and then the H58 are what saw the Vickers service out in the British service. Obviously, we've got commercial boxes. We have a number of the the number 8s that actually saw Irish service and are marked up with FN mag on the side in 7.62mm NATO for the general purpose machine gun that the Irish Defence Forces were using. And the British service ended up with just liner ammunition rather than the number 8s. The number 8 stayed in service for training purposes because it meant you could use the strip type belts and you could reload them quite easily. But you do see some of these overpacks just being used for that as well. So the H51 box. The last model of Vickers ammunition box though was this, plastic, South African. So they were using 7.62mm NATO, just holds 200 rounds. This example is actually 1984 dated and has 4 rounds of ball and 1 of tracer as Vickers in its disintegrating link. So quite a remarkable little sort of strap arrangement on the box there, and you can just unpick one side, and that will actually come up as just a partial lid opening there because of the V-slot. And again, we've got the moulded shape of a round of ammunition in there. So that's the last box, the latest box that we have in the collection. So there we go, real range of ammunition boxes that we've got in the Vickers collection here. Let us know what ones you've got in your collections. If you've got any examples that differ from those, you'd really like to hear about that. If you've got any questions about what boxes are suitable for what displays, please feel free to ask those as well. But I hope that's been enjoyable for you to see the range of boxes that exist with the Vickers in service. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and share the video and subscribe to the channel. Please support us on Patreon if you're able to, and let us know of anything you'd like to see in the future. I look forward to hearing from you.